Hello, good morning. Welcome into another episode of Good Morning Nasdaq. I'm your host, Dom Master Mateo. That is Mr. Mike Hudson, the Hudsonator. Welcome into
In
the
the
Clover
flesh.
Trading YouTube channel. We are live on this beautiful morning at 8:50 a.m. EST on the 17th day of September, year of our Lord 2024, on what looks to be a slower day in Gapville. We have one 100% runner and then a couple in the kind of mediocre threshold after yesterday, in which gappers were also few and far between. But the main gapper we had, NCNA, did pose some issues for a lot of people on both sides. I feel like it was very trappy, very stoppy, and then go work the other way. Ended up squeezing out into the end of the day, and then I believe pulling back most of the way towards the close. One of those more manipulated looking tickers on a generally low float stock. So does that make you think, Huddy, going into this morning Tuesday, that we can expect more of the same out of that the rest of the week, or is that one of those one-offs where someone just had control of it over it and it is what it is?
Yeah, I think it's pretty one-off and random. I mean, if you just kind of watched the action yesterday, there was clearly some manipulation going on, especially like the way that it broke low of day into the midday. Like this wasn't natural. The way that I don't know if you guys watched it, but like there was like a ton of volume at six. It broke through it, had some kind of crack, and then swiped right back up. Clearly being heavily manipulated at that key level right there, and there's no guarantee that that type of manipulation is going to be there on tomorrow's gapper, right? Generally, what they're going to target are these low float names. Ones like this one yesterday, even coming into the market, I was saying like I don't know what this is going to do. Like this is pretty 50-50. It's just a low float that's gapping up with like no real like overwhelming evidence that it has to be a piece of crap ticker, like that it can't be thin, right? And have upside. So I think it's pretty random. I mean, maybe it's in that biopharmaceutical world and SMMT and TIL are carrying the strength forward. It's a pretty far stretch of the imagination to just want to avoid biotechs all week because of that. But that would be the only kind of correlative thing I could see for the week. Otherwise, I would just kind of consider NCNA as a one-off, a random. And yeah, it got manipulated up, it got manipulated down. And I'm just going to forget that ticker ever existed and draw no correlations to it.
Yeah, I don't hate that idea. At the end of the day, didn't really do much. We talked about the daily resistance overhead. It's not like it busted through all that. It's not like it became a giant squeezer. The range was really only from the 6 to right around 8. So we've seen worse in terms of short squeezes. That one just looked like a headache, regardless of which side you were on. But welcome in, everybody. We got William Gregory in the chat, Joseph, P Daddy Slim, 123 Drummer Max. Good morning, good morning. Make sure, as always, right now that you take a gander over at the YouTube page and you make sure that you're subscribed. If you're not, make sure you are. We're live every day. The market is open for this wonderful show, this entertainment, and we also post long form content every Monday. You heard me say William Greger there, one of Clover's students. Interview with him up last night, so go check it out sometime during the day when you have a moment to study or put it on in your car. Great interview. I sat down with him and talked about his struggles, his journeys, what he likes to trade, and how he was able to figure that out. So if you ever don't want to miss any of that content, like I said, it's coming out weekly. Make sure your subscribe notification bell is turned on. And the last thing I ask before we get going here right now, say hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, get us up to 50 likes, and make sure you're commenting over there in the chat. Let us know any tickers you want to talk about, any questions you have, and if we have time, I will handpick some, and we'll get to some towards the end of the show. How does that sound, Huddy?
That sounds fantabulous.
Wow, that's awesome. All right. We didn't say the biggest gapper, but the biggest gapper today is BFI BurgerFi. So one that we would have talked about, I feel like a month or two ago. Let's take a look at their dilution tracker, BurgerFi International. It's hard not to love them based off that name. Float is 20 million, market cap 6.1 million. They were established in 2011. BurgerFi is among the nation's fastest growing better burger concepts, with approximately 125 BurgerFi restaurants domestically and internationally. Did you know that?
Yeah,
125.
I've been to a couple.
No way.
Yeah, they exist in Miami.
Really?
They're not bad. They're not phenomenal. I don't know why they're going bankrupt. I thought they were better than a bankrupt burger, if I'm being honest on my burger review.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, 28-cent ticker, company that I know,
Yeah,
real life
it's
number.
I see the words nation's fastest growing better burger concepts, and I'm like, do we need any more burger concepts? Like, do we? It's just like the wing industry too. It's just like everywhere you look, more random companies are popping up. It's just like, oh, you're charging $4 a wing now instead of three. Let me go try you out. I don't know if it's a concept that needs to be perfected. You know what I like is like buy one get one free or 30-cent wing night. Back in my day, B Dubs used to be like 30-cent Thursdays or something. Those were
No,
the days.
those were great days.
They don't really exist anymore.
I think it was on Wednesdays because that's like Wing Wednesday. But yeah,
I
we'll
think
just
no, there was like that might have been traditional day. Tuesdays I think were like traditional day, and Thursdays were like boneless day. But
wow.
it was better than the world we live in now. So better burger, get better burger concept. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see if there's any news going on here. 10 hours ago, they received approval of first day motions to support business operations after 5 days ago filing for protection under Chapter 11. And then 6 days ago, they wanted you to sink your teeth into BurgerFi's $4 double cheeseburger on National Cheeseburger Day. So it's kind of a mixture here of trying to pump it, mixed in with legal settlements, deficiencies, Chapter 11. Is there any more information in the PR today to support business operations?
You know what? It's not really in my skill set to really go through and read any of that bankruptcy jargon. It's beyond my knowledge level. It's not what I specialize in. If I specialize in anything really. But I'm not going to understand anything in that document. All I'm really going to do is in the back of my mind say, okay, this company is going bankrupt. This is maybe like a bankrupt type of bounce or a dead cat bounce off the lows. We've seen it before. It kind of just goes into one of those categories for me. So I just understand the circumstances surrounding BFI. But as far as the catalyst goes, like I can't read that much into it because I don't know. I really don't know. I just know that it's probably going to go bankrupt. But maybe they're getting themselves out of it. Maybe they're not. The main theme here is bankruptcy. So going forward, like that will be a key word in the back of my mind, especially if BFI has a huge run. Then there are other bankruptcy tickers.
Yeah, it seemed I just read through that PR kind of like they had just access to some money and that they're still transitioning towards bankruptcy and that it shouldn't affect their employees or their franchise partners. Minus 1.4 months of cash left on a quarterly burn of 2.92 million. They have some SPAC warrants from 2020. I don't know how interesting those are. November 2022 shelf, 3.7 million raisable there. Not a ton in that world. I don't know if you dove into that anymore.
No, I didn't. I mean, guys, it's a 15-cent ticker going bankrupt. Like, I'm not looking at the dilution. I'm not really looking into any of this stuff. I just think it's probably in the boat of maybe some bag holders from the most recent run. Like I find this really hard to believe this is getting over the most recent resistance in one day. Like again, like if this bankruptcy news is going to have legs and it's really like taking them out of bank. Like again, I have no idea what the news says, but if this is going to have multiple legs, I think we'll see it in the chart later on. But as for now, like yeah, the dilution doesn't really mean anything to me. It's not big. It hasn't been like this habitually dilutive stock. So I just think it's kind of nominal on the dilution side.
Yeah, and taking a look over at the daily charts, what we like to do here on Good Morning Nasdaq, talk about the catalyst, talk about the company in general, maybe have some entertainment in terms of what they're writing about their information on the company, talk about their dilution, and then take a look at the daily chart and see, just from that perspective, what do we expect? What is the current trend of the overall stock? In this case, BFI, over the past 5 years, has really just been a downtrending stock in which until recently has not been in play. There's no big volume days. That's how we know. You go down on the bottom, you can see the days in which there is activity, in which there is interest in it, and you just don't see that going back on the chart. But there is a severe downtrend. So even though they might be telling you that business is great and they're one of the fastest growing better burger concepts, the stock price and the stock chart is not saying the same thing. But the really only relevant information on this chart is the past couple months in which we've had a run from the 20-cent area up towards 80, pulled back, retested it, and then have failed to make a new higher high until 20 cents here earlier this morning. And, kind of fits a lot of what we were talking about yesterday with a lot of the gappers, which is that there's resistance overhead. It is from recent price action. It's not like it's a year or two away. Talking about if there is the potential for bag holders on day 1 or day 2, 3, 4, 5. It's all significantly higher. It's like 100% higher, like 50 to 100% higher. So there is lots of built-in resistance on this bag holder chart, and which is why, from a long bias perspective, I would be quite not interested. I rarely am, but I'm more interested in like multi-week, multi-month breakouts that aren't gapping so much into that area. We're up 150% right now, and we're not even to like the base of the real bag holder resistance from a couple months ago. So I would assume that this probably fails. The overarching theme on this stock is negative in terms of them failing and probably going much lower. So this feels like a short-term cog in the wheel, and doesn't mean it can't hold up, doesn't mean it can't push and go higher. But if I was a betting man and the opposite bet of the market, I would bet that this doesn't go much higher today. But I'm not willing to bet on that in the market, if that makes sense.
No.
It doesn't make sense?
It makes sense.
What are your thoughts?
And very little thoughts, right? Like my main thought is it's a bankruptcy play, right? I just compartmentalize what it is, and then I let it live its best life. And what it does today will probably give me more thoughts to, what comes, through the pipeline, by Thursday or Friday. I'll have an idea of what a theme is, right? But for now, like, just because this thing is up 150% on the day, it doesn't establish a theme by any means. We still have yet to see what BFI is going to do, whether it, opens and craps itself or it holds up. Like, that is yet to be determined, and I really don't know. Like, I think the odds are, there's bag holders baked in this chart. People want to get out for a profit when they see it up 150%, so there might be some selling pressure. But if this bankruptcy actually has, news that I don't understand and I'm not reading, yeah, I could see it kind of holding up and recovering if there's something in the news that I don't understand. So it's another one where I could see both situations happening, and I think the best thing is just to be aware of why the things are going on. Once it like does hold up or once it does fall apart, I think we have more of a perspective as to what's really going on instead of like trying to predict.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to look. It's how for most of my career I've looked at gappers, is just keep some on watch that hold up throughout the day and let the gap and crappers attack the ones that end up fading, mixed in with a few headaches along the way. But yeah, I think we've kind of nailed this one on the head in terms of what's going on with their company, the catalyst today, and the daily chart. It's just not one that I think this is going to be the most interesting one, just because this is the one up 150%, and the next gapper is only up 67. So I do think there's going to be interest here. I think there's a lot of people that don't short stocks under like 50 cents. So you kind of have that angle as well. Not the smallest float in the world, but a low price stock making some moves here in the pre-market. That is BurgerFi. That is BurgerFi. Let me see what you guys are saying in here. William says they have one in Myrtle. 123 General Max says BurgerFi is in Boston. WC says BurgerFi was right next to my house. Overrated. You've heard it here, folks, from the Clover chat. BurgerFi is not one of the fastest growing burger concepts in the universe. Someone wrote, Wheeler, nice getting close to the breakout level. That's kind of annoying. I wrote literally yesterday in chat and privately to people like that I had a feeling about that one. That just this daily chart shouldn't be bouncing back like this on this type of volume. I said 10, probably gaps to 10. Looks like it gapped towards 12 early. Frustrating. Well, it's not a pattern for me, but it was more of an idea. Okay, the next gapper, SMSI Smissy, for those who like to make words out of letters. Smith Micro Software, obviously a software application company out of the United States, repping a float of 10.08 million, market cap 9.9 million. F it, I'll read it. They develop software to simplify and enhance the mobile experience, providing solutions to some of the leading wireless service providers and cable MSOs around the world. Sounds awesome. Thanks, guys. 1 month ago. Okay, so I don't have news today. Do you have news? Can you find me news?
Try.
Yeah, I don't Don't see any there. Let's go through the rest. 3.4 months of cash left. They withdrew an offering from August 2024. May of this year, they have 1.9 million warrants outstanding at 2.34, which is far away. Some shelves from a couple years ago. Don't see anything relevant in that dilution area. Any catalyst? Anyone see a catalyst?
I mean, the most recent thing I see is that they withdrew a registration statement.
Sounds fun. Let me see if there's anything somewhere else.
Withdraw the registration statement because the company is determined not to pursue the offering of securities covered by the registration statement at this time. That was yesterday. So
yeah, I'm not seeing anything in terms of PRs or news releases. Okay, so SMSI 10 mil float was a 50-cent stock yesterday. It is now in the 90-cent to $1 area. Like I said, I have a small amount of cash left. I didn't see anything relevant dilution-wise besides some warrants at 234 that there isn't that many of them and it's far away. Is that correct?
well, didn't they just withdraw it?
That was the one from 2024.
Yeah, 2.3 billion. You have the August 2024 S1 offering has been withdrawn. You have warrants in the twos, which yeah, you're right, it's very far away, so it's not really applicable to the current price. And yes, some other means of dilution that they haven't tapped in quite some time. I mean, just pretty ordinary. Nothing that strikes me as whoa, and nothing that strikes me as bullish. Just a company that's gapping because they withdrew a registration statement and plan not to do the offering.
They did a reverse split a couple months ago, 5 months ago. So as you look back on this daily chart, you can see that prices are quite high, but it is top left to bottom right. Pretty much everything that's been going on with the stock, you could pinpoint to, more likely the last 2 days, but there was one day in which it kind of ran from $1.90 to threes, came all the way back in before going sideways for the rest of the year. And then over the past 2 months, the stock has gone from $2.50 down to 50 cents. So a lot of things on the horizon for them, apparently. Bad things. Smith Microsoftware. And then coming off of these lows right now, we get, I think you said it happened yesterday. Yep, at the close, we kind of popped off this 50-cent area, held up into the after hours, and then are trying to go sideways right now in that 85 to 90-cent area. So you kind of got a more interesting price range than BFI, having this one be a lot closer to $1. I know that interests people a lot more than shorting a 25-cent stock, but maybe not necessarily the very obvious bag holders on this chart over history. They are certainly there, considering that this stock has really only been downtrending for the last multiple years. But we have a day in which it's doing decent volume. 27 million this morning already, around a key hold dollar number 1. What do you think?
Well, I think it's interesting that the downtrend from 250 started in August, which is about the time that the shelf came out that they just withdrew. So if that's the reason that it had downward, type of price action, if it was like directly correlated to that offering and then they withdrew that offering, it kind of makes sense that the stock maybe has a tendency to gravitate back towards where it came from. That's kind of a stretch of the imagination, but maybe all this is just an attempt for them to get their stock back over $1, and that offering was really bad for them. And that's not where they want to be if they want to complete an offering. So they withdrew it for now to, again, get their stock price back over $1, not get delisted, and then maybe bring it back later on once they fulfill any requirements they have to fulfill. I mean, there's a number of things going on here. At the end of the day, I don't think this company's good. I think they're going to bring back that offering at some point, just not necessarily right this second. And it's not like a strong catalyst in my mind.
Yeah. As far as gappers go this morning, in terms of news and fundamentals, catalyst, kind of boring, not jumping off the page like this is something that's definitely going to squeeze. But sometimes that's when the squeezers get squozed, is when they don't think they're going to get squozed. But even just in general, I don't love the way these ones are set up. I feel like we've had a lot of really weak daily charts coming out of these gappers recently, which have kind of made them headaches because maybe there's just a lot of people on one side and then it's just very choppy. But yeah, as far as SMSI goes, not too interested. Only up 73%, but I would anticipate that this fails. The only time it ever did get volume was a day in which that it spiked and gave all those gains back by the end of the day. So wouldn't be surprised to see something like that happen on this one today. Kevin says they have a pretty high short interest. I only see 5% on Dilution Tracker. Maybe it's higher, but that wouldn't be surprising considering this is a company that has been falling into the depths of despair over the past 5 years. But yeah, that's SMSI. Not a ton of interest there for me. We'll see if it even holds up into the next 20 minutes into the open and is one of the top gappers. As far as the rest of the gappers go, we don't have anything until 40% up on the day. So really not too much interest there. Pretty boring day for gappers, wouldn't you say, Huddie?
Yeah.
So let's see what you guys are saying. We'll answer some questions and get on out of here on time. Webinar, just so you guys know, for you 4-leaf clovers is today at, do you know what time, Huddie?
11 Eastern.
11 Eastern with Kyle Williams. So if you want to check that out, you can head on over to clovertrain.io. Instructions how to access the webinars will be given to you once you sign up. If you have any questions, reach out to support. 142 of you watching, only 40 likes. We got 4 minutes to go. We're going to answer some questions for you. What do you say, 10 of you volunteers tribute? Hit that thumbs up button. Get us up towards 50. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well for anyone who didn't hear me at the beginning. Are you watching ATPC for our first green day? The funny thing when I hear questions like this, I've never heard of ATPC. I didn't know it was a runner. So when I hear that we're already onto the stage of first green day, I question it because I didn't know it ran in the first place. It never came on my radar for a short, which means it probably wasn't extended up enough. We will test it right now and see. But that's just so you know, my initial thoughts. We answer a lot of questions, and you guys probably don't know what life is like on the other side where we just sit here and we see a lot of questions every day. That's where my thought process goes. Have you heard of that ticker?
Yeah, I know what it is. I mean, I only know what it was because it was a gapper last week that failed. It's not going to fit any kind of requirements for a first green day. And I think the person asking this question has to redraw the definition of a first green day because that's not a first
green day. It's really not technically a first green day. This would fit into the reversal. So for me, a first green day has multiple red days following its green day, and a reversal has one. The problem is, you need like a 300+% run. In this case, we're up from like the 150 area towards 3. So not even 100% move on the initial. And the move wasn't like, it was like a stock where everyone was like watching for like at least an entire day. It was like
it all happened in the pre-market.
By 10:30, it was dead, and it literally gave back all of its gains and came all the way back down to 160. Yesterday, you almost could say that was the bounce back because it went from 160s to a high of 240s. J-Bone says it fits more of a BKYI breakout. Yeah, it's more of like a 3-day type of breakout if it were to hold above 250, 260s. I just don't think there's enough range here on the upside, so it didn't run enough to the upside. I don't think it trapped anyone. Like, shorts got paid, shorts should be out. Like, they got rewarded all the way back down to where it came from. You have T+1 today, but really just it doesn't fit. It just definitively doesn't fit the definition. So I would like to see a bigger run or a multi-day move or a multiple day fade. But in this instance, I really just don't like in general trading off of day ones, like reversals off of day ones, unless that is a huge green candle that opens at its lows and closes at its highs and then has a red day.
It's just kind of what I've habitually noticed is that everyone has, not everyone, but like no one knows what to call this pattern. Like today it was called a first green day. The other day it was called a third day surge. I would probably characterize it as a breakout. So I would characterize it as neither of the two and a breakout that hasn't happened yet. But that's kind of the chart pattern that I see there if it is to happen. And those are 3 different terminologies for the same freaking thing. So that's the problem with a lot of newer traders and just trying to find their footing. You're being kind of just all the information is being miscombobulated in your head. You don't have accurate information. This is not a first green day. Yes, it can have a green day, but it does not fit the definition of a first green day. You need to study, you need education, whoever asked that question. And in a good way. Like, it's good that you ask questions, and if you don't know something, okay, go find out.
Yeah, it's not one of those where I'm like, oh, it's so off the board. Like sometimes when I get breakout charts and the stock is like on a 4-day move, and then I'm like, okay, it's really wrong. It's there. There's worlds where I would probably have said in a different world where instead of 150 to 3, this is 150 to 9, where I'm more interested in this and I'm looking at it for potential. It's more has to do with range here and just what it did on day one behaviorally. Okay, more information on BurgerFi. They closed up in Naples, closed up in Boston. Very cheap, franchise free, even cheaper when they delist. You're welcome, Jenica. Mash for Fun says, Wheeler, I see this two ways, short into resistance and potential breakout. I think may have come too far to have an explosive breakout. Yeah, that's kind of what I wrote in my watch list. Because I think it's funny because I have started to short, breakdown shorts and bounce shorts on the daily chart. And generally speaking, there is a very fine line between being ready for something to break out and being ready for something to top out and fade. And you're looking at the same stock on the same days for both options, and it can get quite tricky, which reminds me of when I was just a long bias trader or just a short bias trader. You tend to see what you want to see, right? If you're a breakout buyer, you're like, this is going to 30, right? This is breaking out over the 12s. It's going to consolidate. It's going higher. You're a breakdown or a bounce shorter, and you're like, okay, this is bounced from 4 up into the 11s in pre-market. The breakout level is 1250. There's no way. This is too much too soon. It's not getting all the way up there. This is a bounce short, and both could be right. And that's the tricky thing about the market. But for me, I think we'll know more today. If the volume is out of control and we're consolidating 10, 11, 12, I think there's still a world where shorts are stuck here. I don't know if Huddy agrees with that sentiment. I think that a lot of people could have been squeezed in the 4 to 6 range, and we did not spend a lot of time under 6. And this is just a stock sticking around. We'll see what's going on in the first couple hours of the day. If it just fades right back, goes red, and it's back in the 8s or 7s, a bounce short is probably the idea. But for me, from a bounce short perspective, I don't really treat them like short into resistance where I have to be there today and get the best average possible. It's more of like let it top out and then let's see. Because I think there is a world where we top out today, and then if 2 days of consolidation happen above 8, it now is like very high on my list for breakout. I don't know if you have anything to add to differentiate between the two, but today it fits kind of both.
Now, this is the super low float, right?
Yeah.
Or it is a low float. Yeah, I mean, you kind of, I'll say it in fewer words, like every great breakout is also a short into resistance. And that is why the breakout happens. It's because shorts are short into resistance. It consolidates near the highs. It breaks out. Everyone gets squeezed. So it is both sides. And, it's just basically using deductive reasoning as to why this would be one or the other. Just given that it's a, very low float and really, broke a lot of short sellers the first 2 days that it ran, like I would probably not want to short this thing, at least not right now, not where it is. I'd much rather kind of root for the whole breakout agenda and then come at it for a first red day if it is in the 15, 17, 20 area on day 3, right? Just in general, I don't really want to short something with this much range and this low of a float. I just feel like even if I based risk off of 1245, like if it gets there, there's no guarantee I'm feeling at 1245. So I just don't like those scenarios in general. And we're still pretty far from that level. So anyone that's like kind of shorting in this range right now, going with like a wide risk approach, it gives them a lot of room to add until they are within tighter risk. And then that's where you see a really big squeeze happen because it's really poor risk management when people are just shorting randomly into a day 3 gap up. So I see a world where it squeezes, and I see a world where it rejects because it's a short into resistance. It's also a breakout chart. I see both worlds. I won't be playing the bounce short, at least not on the day that it's green and bullish, mainly because it's a low float. And I think that you're asking for it if you want to go dabble in that world. So it's just not for me, right? I think there are better bounce shorts. I think there are, as always, scenarios, environments, circumstances, variables to consider when planning your thesis, your big picture thesis. And, the part for me that really strikes my nerve as a short seller is just this low float that's holding up way too well. Like that's not something I want.
It should not be back up here in the 9s and 10s. Like that's,
yeah, and it's also like
so weird,
like horribly dilutive. And I don't know if they're horribly dilutive right this second, but they have been in the past. And so again, like agenda, right? Like what is the real? I don't know, and that all scares me. So
and volume is just surprisingly good.
And by the way, I won't buy the breakout either. I don't buy breakouts. I just
Yeah,
want
right.
short.
You'll be messaging me at 2 p.m.
Yeah, maybe if it's at 12, in between 12 and 10.
The way I see it is, if you want to short it, you don't have to short it today. Like, there's still range to the downside if you believe they're really dilutive and that's the agenda. And if you want to long it, you don't have to do it in the first 30 minutes of the day. Sure, it could squeeze out and break out, but I feel like both. I want to wait.
I will say that I probably won't message Dom about it today, mainly because it's day 3 of the run, and I don't want to be buying a breakout on day. I like your first scenario is way better. I still probably won't buy it because there'll be a lack of volume when that comes, but I think it needs to like consolidate up here, spend a day, and then retest these levels later this week. And I feel like that would be more comfortable, but also maybe the trap. So I hate breakouts. I won't buy it, especially not today, and I won't short it. I'll just let it live.
It's just, this is another one of those things, though, when we talk about slower markets or how do you guys keep your attention on the right stuff. I'm not saying that Wheeler is the right stock for you, but it's a stock that I'm sure a lot of people, the people were bringing up tickers yesterday, like MLGO and Holo, and it's like, keep a Wheeler on your watch list. Like a stock that went from 2 to 12, that pulled back to 4, and is now bouncing back to the 9. Like, these are the ones I want to keep my eye on, to where if I don't forget about it, there might be a really big trade there where all of a sudden it's at 20, and I'm like, wait, that was the runner from 2 weeks ago. How is it back up here? What did I miss? And that is just one of those things where that's avoidable. You cannot miss trades if you're just prioritizing your watch list every night, making sure that you have the right stuff that's holding up. And if in a world where Wheeler's at 2 and this had faded all the way off, it'd be deleted. But because it bounced back on this day and held, it's going to stay there until death comes for it. But all right, there's 921. You guys got up to 66 likes, over 150 of you watching. Absolutely fantastic. Amazing. Great news for all of you guys. Tomorrow's Wednesday, which means it's a free Wednesday. It's our jam-packed day. We're 9:15 a.m. We run with all the Clovers and do some live trading. I usually regret that I'm sitting up here trading and make some mistakes. Kyle either makes or loses a lot of money. I don't know what Huddie does. He'll talk about the gappers. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, we'll have Wine Wednesday, where the same thing will happen, except we won't trade. We'll just have fun. And that's what we're going to do. If you have anything you want to say it now, because we're leaving. But we hope you guys have a great Tuesday. Stick to your niche. Stay in your lane. Let stocks come to you. And we'll see you tomorrow. For all you 4-leafs, we'll see you in the webinar at 11. And as always, if you want to check us out, clovertrading.io. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We will we're gonna leave now.